Hello, I think we're live. Welcome, y'all, to the front row seat. I have with me again today Miss Pamela. Miss Pamela has contacted me, and we did a podcast last week, and it was just so awesome that I told her that she needs to come back and do this again because she is very talented at coming and speaking. She's probably an extrovert like me, but she's really good at talking about what she's experiencing and how it feels and what she's going through. And I wanted to talk with her again so that we could explore some more of these things that we're trying to learn about ourselves, about each other. And because when we do this, it helps us get different perspectives so that we can understand ourselves better. So welcome to the front row seat again, Pamela. So glad to see you. How are you doing?
I'm doing. I thank you. Thank you seriously for having me again. I love conversations with you. I'm incredibly grateful for your insight and your experiential wisdom, as it's very potent. And so, thank you. I really thank you for having me here.
I think that you're just really intelligent, and you've identified that, when we share and talk about these things that we don't really want to talk about, when we do it anyway, and we step up there and just slap a courage badge on, and we do it anyway, what happens is this dynamic starts where we can grow and we can evolve and move out of where we are that we don't like and move towards something better that we do like. And it's one of the few ways that you can really get in there and get some stuff done quickly. We could go sit in a cave and meditate for 10 years, but we can do it much quicker if we're communicating and doing it this way. So I'm just so grateful for you that you're coming and doing this and helping me grow too. So I appreciate you as well. You said something that really caught my attention, in that when we first came into the podcast, I asked you how you were doing. So could you repeat that? I think that this is a really good piece to help us understand where we're at and where we're going.
Yeah, I this well, this is incredibly important to me. The growth process, getting rid of the fears, and it's insanely important. It's pretty much everything. Almost probably where I'm holding on too tight, right? But so my thing is that what I was sharing with you earlier. Um, okay, so my nervous system is completely jacked, and I'm freaking out. Um, it's scary. I don't know. I've learned. Okay, so my nervous system is insane. I started a part-time job, so I'm going in there and I'm hearing myself being like, "Oh, you're not doing enough. It's not good enough," and it's just like it's an incredibly insane loop of just beating myself up. And I'm seeing this, and then as my nervous system is jacked, I'm drained, I'm tired. Like yesterday, I got home and all I did was lay there and cry. I got super discouraged, and yeah, it's it's incredibly important, but it's also very brutal. Uh,
And this is what, I think that others are feeling. When we start this journey of going in and finding where we're at and going on this inward journey to find our true self, to get rid of this fear that we all have gotten so much of that we can't hardly function anymore. When you first start this process, what happens is it just starts coming at you all at once. And when you started talking to me, I just immediately went back to where I was when I started doing some of the inner work that I've been doing. And I was like, oh, I know that place. And it was so important to me, just like you, because I could see myself. I could see I was a negative person. I knew I wasn't treating myself right. I knew I wasn't treating other people right. I knew there was something not right about me. And it was true. And because of that, I knew that there was a way. I knew there had to be some way to to grow or learn or something, and so I started, reaching out, reading just like you have. And as you start, looking into these things, you found the same person I did. I don't know how that happened, but I mean, you found, Tom Campbell's work and how his theory, his My Big Toe is the book that he wrote, and he does a lot of podcasts. But anyway, he talks about how, when we have a lot of fear and, how that manifests in your life and what that does to your life and how negative it makes us, then it makes your life negative. Then you've got a negative feedback loop going. And that's all it is, because we're part of the system. The system is part of us. And whatever we do, it manifests out here. What we think, that train of thought just goes right into it. So we're connected to this somehow. And when we start doing the initial work of going in, well, we find these places within ourselves that aren't real pretty, and they're just there. But everybody has it. There's only a couple, the Dalai Lama may be one of them, I mean, but good grief. He's been, reincarnating into this holy man, over and over again. Well, yeah, we can do it. Well, that's not where we are. So we're doing the work. Someday we'll be holy too, but most of us aren't right now. And so where do we start? Well, we have to start with us, because the way out is in, and we have to be the change we want to see in the world. It's the only way it works. No other way works. But me and Pamela both have tried all the different ways. And the only way out is in. We have to go in and find these places in us and change. And so when you first start doing the work, it's almost like you start walking in the snow, and then you say, okay, I got it. And it gets deeper and deeper. You're like, I got it. Oh, I got this. It gets deeper and deeper before it's up to your eyeballs. And you're like, I can't see. I'm in a blizzard. What's happening to me? And it's really, really tough. And I was in the same place that you are right now. And I was able to ask Tom this question. I said, I'm trying, but I don't know. But it seems to me that since I started doing, looking at my fears and trying to work through this stuff, it seems my life is just getting worse. It's just getting worse and worse and worse. And I mean, am I going the wrong way? Am I doing it wrong? Or, what's happening here? And this is what he said. He said, well, when you do start working on yourself, what happens is you're focusing there. And so that's going to start manifesting in your reality. Okay, these fears that you have, you want to look at them, because you're thinking, your intent is, I want to see this. I want to see me. I want to see what I'm doing so that I can change it. Because we don't see those things. All we see is, see, all we're seeing in our reality is the after effect of what we're doing. It's our feedback loop. And when you're stuck in a negative feedback loop, you're getting all this negativity all around you. You can't see where you're causing it at. The only way to do it is to just be aware of what's happening and start looking at it. And when you look at it, well, it makes a little more so you can see it. So that's why I wanted to tell people, about this piece of it, is because don't get discouraged if you start doing this work. It gets a little harder before it gets better. It gets a little harder at first, but then once you start getting the rubber meets the road, where you finally start getting a grip on it, then things start getting easier and easier and easier, because it keeps getting easier because you're moving out of it. But it's just like that. I want to find a good analogy for it, but everybody always knows what that's saying. Well, it's going to get worse before it gets better. And it's the same
right.
This right here. So don't be discouraged, Pamela. You're doing a really excellent job of looking in and doing this work. And this work is just, when the women do it, especially, I feel like what's happening with this, going in and looking at these things within ourselves, all that's going to do, the better we get, that's going to help everybody around us. And there's children, there's husbands, there's aunts, uncles, and because the women are kind of the center of the social circles, they are, because we're kind of designed for emotional, social interaction.
Mhm.
And that's what we do. That's why the women are the mothers, because that's just part of what we're designed to do. So when we do this work, I think it's 50 times more important than anybody because of that fact. And as I got better, everybody in my family started getting better. I don't have children, but I have nieces and nephews and all of that going on. So brothers and sisters and my mother, and as I started healing, I'm looking around, and it was just like a miracle. Everybody started healing and getting better, and it was all of us, and it was me. I was in it. I was them. They were me. We're all in this together. And that's why, it's important that we talk about this one piece. And I wanted to bring this up because, don't let it discourage you. Don't let it, make you say, oh, well, okay, this has just gotten too hard and I'm not doing it anymore and going back to what you were doing before. If you just stay the course, things are going to lighten up. And that's what I kept telling myself. Okay. But I did have a little bit of help. Tom didn't talk me into it. I mean, I wanted to do the work, but
Right.
he said, well, the system is aware of you now because, he goes, well, evidently he was ready. And I said, well, I don't know about being ready. I was just so miserable. That was the only other thing I thought I could try. He goes,
Hey, amen to that.
good thoughts about everything. I still have them, but the trick is learning how to get rid of them when they come in as quickly as you can, because they're manifesting things too.
Well, no, and I love that piece that you shared. You're like that, because we can, I understand intellectually that I create my reality, but do I understand it at that level, right? Of going, no, literally all of those thoughts, like you shared with me before we, started, that it's what we focus on. And again, I've heard that forever, but now I'm really feeling the effects of that understanding that I created, because the negative loop it's insanity.
Yes.
And so for like people who are doing this work or who are embarking upon it too, I mean, because I spent a lot of years identifying my fears, and now I feel like it's where I'm really starting to just like dive deep into the walk of it, And so I'm thankful because being able to share this with you, and then the reception last time, that people were so amazingly receptive, and I am super grateful for that. And so it's like not being alone in the process, because it's so scary. And we do have to do it ourselves, but a support network is super necessary. Just,
Yes.
just by you sharing those pieces, I was like, oh my gosh, there was a sense of peace. Like, hang on, don't give up. You have to recognize the negative thought, but you can't live there, right?
Well, you can.
Well, I have for almost 6 decades. So
Yeah, yeah. We've been there, done that. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. I'm
Yeah.
like, I want to enjoy the rest of what I've got here,
Yeah. And
I
you
really
can,
do.
you will, because you're doing this work. And I like what you said about, when we're doing this and we're journey that is so new to most of us, because, in our, our culture, it doesn't have, the only thing that it does have in this piece of it is, there's religions, but that's always focusing on something that's outside of you. It's not focusing, well,
Yes.
who are you? Who are you? It's like that song, isn't it? Tell me, who are you? That's where we need to go. And I think that I think that religion tried to get those concepts in there, but it just got, it turns into dogma, and then next thing you know, it's just about worshiping as something outside of yourself. And I think that, once our cultures start to heal a little bit, and we start going in and dealing with ourselves, that's when we're going to see big changes in the work realm that we are in now. And there's a lot going on, but that's why. It's because of us. It's not because of anything else.
Yeah.
We're doing it.
No.
And that's
It's
why I like front row seat. Here we are. It's all about you because you're doing it, because we are doing it. We all create this realm that we live in, and individually and collectively we do. And
yeah.
so once we start getting that piece back in there, that it's about us. And I think I got goosebumps when you said that, because I sometimes wonder what it is that I'm doing. And, it's like, okay, now wait a minute. I think that, even if it just helps a few people, it's okay, because it's really important. I believe this work. I think that it's the only way out. It's the only way to compassion, because we don't have compassion in our culture anymore. We've lost it, and we've got to get that back. And that's why we're so self-focused in a bad way. We can't have compassion if everything's always about ourselves.
Yeah.
We can't have compassion. It's not here. And we need to bring that back, because only through compassion do we find peace. That's the only place we can get there. And so, having this to as a maybe like just a stepping stone for people to just maybe listen and come here, and you can get in the chat and talk. We can all talk together, because we're all in it together. And I think having a support group going through this is super important. I went through most of it by myself. It was very, very hard. And I think that because of that, it showed me, it's like, wait, maybe there's something that I can do here. And maybe I can, share my story about, the work that I've done. I did, I had a little bit of help. I was able to go and ask 2 questions once a month on the fireside chat that Tom did every month. And so that was my support group, was the people
Yeah.
there, in the chat, and then getting to ask Tom a question. And I work all month on those questions too, because I just knew it was their fault. I knew that the problem was out there somewhere. And it would be so funny. He would turn it all around and go focus exactly where I was stuck, because I wasn't even asking the right question. And
Wow.
he would see where I was stuck, and then he would tell a little story and do an analogy, and then I would get unstuck for a little while until the next month. But so I did have that support, and I think that's one way that I can give back. And that's what I'd
Yeah.
like to do. And I'm so glad that you showed up, Pamela, because here we are.
Too.
Now we can create this little support network. I think that it would be so good. And it's just so needed right now, because everywhere I look, that's what I'm seeing, is everybody's focused in ways that it's, and when we're focused in a negative way, we're putting energy into it. And we have to be focused in negative ways sometimes. That's the only way we can see what we're doing. We need that feedback. And when we focus in negative ways, well, guess what? Something in your, and something in your experience is going to show up that's going to point right to it. And this realm is just so good at that, setting stuff up just for you so that only you would understand it.
Yeah.
And then it'll roll in a little bit of humor and go, ha ha.
Oh God. That I do not have. I'm like, everything is so brutal. But
Oh,
I wanted to ask you too, like when obviously it's in layers,
yes.
right? So it's like, would you kind of tap into that a little bit of like in your experience, how, as you unraveled it, what to expect? Because again, I'm going back to, it has to be our experience in order for it to be our truth. So my thing is, if you could share that, it's like those seeds, just planting that seed of understanding so that I have some awareness around it, so that I have something to hold on to instead of feeling like I'm flailing. And again, like if sometimes I have to flail, then sometimes I have to flail and I have to find the rope in the darkness,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yep. Oh, yeah. Oh, I did lots of flailing. Yeah. But as you conquer, and that's one thing is that helped me a lot, is just take one fear at a time. Don't try to do all of them at once. Just take one that you're actively working on. Your experience is they're all going to be mixed in there. It's going to be a mixed bag, but just pick one that you know, and focus on that one and work on that one. And then that will give you the template that you need to work on the other ones. And so as that fear, you know, you know where the big ones are. We all know where they're at. Even something like, you know, I had a lot of my fears had fears and they were having babies. I called them my gremlins. It was just they had multiplied so many of them. So I picked my fear of big dogs because this is a big fear. I mean, I was terrorized. I was terrified. I would see a big dog and I would just freeze up. And because I got bit by one. So I felt that was the fear I focused on first. And I just focused on that one. And I had made that into such a vibration, such a big vibration that everywhere I went, there was a big dog. I was manifesting them left and right. And I was like, see, that's mine. I did that. Ha, there it is.
Wow,
Oh,
that's
yeah.
amazing.
It was just so obvious. I couldn't deny it anymore. It's like, okay, I'm doing it. I'm doing this. And so I focused on that big fear. And as you know, you're going through this onion, right? So first, what you got to do is you've got to get yourself calmer so that when you do see the big dog, you're not already panicked and you go into a bigger state of panic. You want to get your nervous system a little bit more relaxed. And, you know, I used a bracelet. Stop. You're not in danger. That dog is on a leash. Look at it. It's wagging its tail. It's trying to lick you. It doesn't want to hurt you. It's just there, and look at him. Isn't he cute? At first it would be like, oh, you're lying. But I kept doing that anyway. It's like, oh, no, look at it. It's wagging its tail. And it was just continually working on it and working on it. And then each time the big dog showed up, I knew it was mine. And I was like, oh, here we are, time to work. And I would turn and face it. Oh, yeah, there he is. And I'm still dripping fear. But it's not about you'll never have fear. It's about facing the thing, even though you have the fear. That's what, you know, they call it bravery. You know, you just turn and you face it. Well, it's on a leash. It's not, it can't even get loose, right? And then you start hitting it with that logic stick. Just hit it, and you just go, wait a minute, that dog is on a leash. You're fine. You're not in danger. Everything's okay. And as I would be telling myself these positive things, I could feel that fear just ever so gently going back down. And each time I encountered it, I would do the same thing. And then before I knew it, that fear was gone. And that's how you work through these fears one at a time. You just get rid of them.
So you own it.
That was the first layer of the onion.
Okay. Oh, okay. Gotcha.
And once I completed my fear and work it all the way through. And here's what's really interesting about how the system works is when you work all the way through one of these fears, what it'll do is it'll let you know. At first, it'll test you a couple times. It'll throw in a couple more big dogs. Because, you know, there's you, but there's the larger system too. This is like a two-part system that we are in this realm. And so it'll throw you a couple of tests just to make sure you've got that one kind of worked all the way through. And then when you come to the end of it, it will tell you. And the dog that bit me was a Doberman. So then at the very end, it took about 6 months to work all the way through this fear until it kept getting smaller and smaller. Then I could see it. I could see a big dog and I didn't feel the fear well up. All I would feel is like, oh, there's a big dog. And it didn't do it anymore. That's how I knew. It's like, okay, this is starting to feel better. Right. And then at the very end, this man came up and he's sitting next to me and we're talking. And he says, oh, I just got a new puppy. And we were having a conversation. And he goes, oh, would you like to see my puppy? I said, oh, sure. And guess what kind of puppy it was? A Doberman puppy. The one that bit me. It was like,
wow.
But there it is. Big old droopy puppy in this funny, sweet form instead of this, you know, very snarly thing that I had from the beginning that caused the fear in the first place. And so I knew as soon as I looked at that picture, it's like, oh my goodness. And here's your sign. Because that could have been any kind of dog. I mean,
Oh God, yeah.
What is the odds? Well, it's astronomical. So that's how you know. You get these experiences that let you know, okay, you've gotten through this one, and now you know how to do the fear. Now you've got the tools to do it. And one of them is, turning and facing the fear, and 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 you got to keep thinking while you're looking at it. Look at it and start and use your logic. Hit it with a logic stick. Okay, wait a minute. I'm not in danger. That's not a saber-toothed tiger sitting there. It doesn't have fangs. Well, it does have fangs, but it's on a lead, and the person's got a hold of it. So and look at it, it's wagging its tail. It's not trying to bite you. It's not trying to hurt you. So you give your brain the information that it needs to calm down, because you really aren't in danger. That's the thing about these fears. They're not even real.
Yeah.
Because you're not actually in danger. It's just your mind telling you that you are.
Based on an experience that we turned into a belief, which then our ego tries to protect us from.
Yeah. It's protecting you from thin air. That's
yeah. Well, okay. So like one of my big fears is, but it's so encompassing. Okay, so I'm never safe. So someone or something always wants to hurt me. And I figured this one out last year sometime. And I was like, oh my God, that's pretty vast and broad, and like I moved in with my sister, but it's like, for the first time, this sounds so crazy, but for the first time in my life, like it took a while, but I actually feel safe in our apartment.
Aww.
Like it's getting better and better all the time, where before my entire life, I just never, ever felt safe. And then I feel, it's like with my, it's not, yeah, I just, I was always in the mode of like, oh, I got to protect my kids. And so and now with me going back to work part-time, like I'm putting myself really out there. Right. And I'm like, no, you are doing this. You are doing this. And then yesterday I'm like, I can't do this. I can't do this. And it's not rocket science or anything, but it's a big deal for me with facing this stuff and accepting, because I love how you said you have fears of your fears, and because I connect with that so much, because it's like, oh, I've also noticed how my body does not want to be in the present moment. It's like resisting me. Did you experience that? So it's like the fears keep me out here.
Exit stage left. We need to go right now.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, so that makes sense. If I'm never safe, why would I want to be in the present moment, right?
And when you're at work, you can't just exit stage left, can you?
No,
so exactly.
Exactly.
Get rid of it. You want to get rid of it. So is it all people? Is it all people that make you feel unsafe, or just males? Males are bigger than females, so we're going to have a natural. Careful here. Even though we don't anymore, because there's rules. There's rules of conduct now. So and most people follow them. Yeah, most people do, and yeah.
So, well, I think it is across the board, but it's in different ways, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like, it's a certain way with males, and then it's a certain way with females. So, but I'm kind of connecting it to that. It's that I'm not okay being me. Nobody likes me. Like nobody likes me. There's this belief I have that like nobody likes you. So I have to, even though I'm not safe anywhere, I have to stay safe by not being anywhere.
Oh goodness. Well, that's going to be hard to get out there and do stuff, isn't it? Oh goodness.
But it's like, yeah. And I'm like, and I think maybe that's why too, there's, with my nervous system responding the way it is, it's because I'm going, no, we're doing this. I'm going, no, I have to do this. I have to bust through this stuff. I cannot live this in this space anymore. I want to be more,
You know what's
and
you know what's really interesting about this is I kind of had the same one too, of that people didn't, like me. So it's you end up kind of trying harder because of that, right? So what ends up usually happening is they tend to like you more than they like other people, because you become funner, you become entertaining, you know. Um, so you try to separate that out from trying to please everyone, because you can't anymore.
Yeah.
You can't. And then just you just look around in the room, and the people that may be having a negative reaction to you, or not being kind to you, all of that stuff, you can wrap that up in a pretty little bow and put a big ribbon on it and pat it on its head and go, that's not about me. That has nothing to do with me. That's about them and how they feel. And because if they were, a kind and compassionate human being, well, then they give everybody a benefit of a doubt, right? Don't we do that? When we see people, we tend to give them a benefit of a doubt, unless, you can just tell
Yeah.
something horribly wrong, in that
Right.
situation. But a benefit of the doubt, which means that, wait a minute, they may have, wrecked their car 3 days ago, and maybe they're in a bad mood, they really don't know me well enough to not like me, right? And so
Well, you
just
got to get there, because when your belief is that it really is you, that you're the problem, I mean, like, it's like, what's there to like? It's these old beliefs that I'm just like, they're old. It's time to let them go,
Yeah.
and I
Well,
always think of Tom too, the
children,
pushback.
as children, we get all these kind of crazy beliefs going,
Yeah. Oh
as
yeah. Oh my
children.
God.
And yeah, it's really good to get in there and find out what you believe, about yourself, because
Yes.
what you believe about yourself and what we perceive about ourselves, well, we manifest that too.
Yeah. Oh
So,
yeah.
so we'll go in, right? Okay, you've got an attitude that, okay, people don't like me. So you walk in, you feel insecure, right? You walk in, oh, I don't know, right? Then people feel that defensiveness, and then they get defensive, because we're human beings. We feel each other's vibe. We feel it. And that's what we mostly go by, but nobody wants to talk about that. So
Well,
you
what's
walk
interesting,
yeah, go ahead.
I have like I think people probably think I'm fake because I'm I'm really nice. I've been a pleaser my whole life, but I am also very genuinely nice. Um, but a pleaser too, right? You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
So, but it's like, so I go in, and what I'm like, this new job, like, people have been amazing. I'm
There you
like,
go.
what the F is going on? Wait, this is not my reality. What's happening? I'm waiting for the bomb to fall, I mean, I'm just waiting for some crash to happen. And so
Maybe
I'm
you
kind of
won't.
setting well, exactly.
Maybe, because you've been thinking about this stuff for a while now. It's been a while.
Yeah.
You've been thinking about this stuff, and you've been looking at, what your thoughts are, what you think, what you believe. You've been looking at that. And so, even when we're in the process of looking at it, we're in the process of working on it. I remember you'd said something about, well, I really haven't been working on a lot of it. But I've been reading and listening to Tom Campbell since 2012. It's like, oh, you've been working on it. You just didn't know you was working on it.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
See?
Yeah.
So now what's happening? You're stepping out into the world, and you're going, wait a minute, this isn't the world I used to live in, because you're not where you were. You've been
Yeah.
open to get new information. And because of that, see, your vibration is a little better. So people are reacting to the new vibration, see? Because whatever, environment that you're in, that's part of you. You're in there
Yeah.
too. And so if it's good and it's working out, it's like, well, that's you too. You manifesting that too. You're doing it.
Well, and
So don't be
I'm
surprised. Be glad. Like, woohoo!
I know, exactly. Celebrate it. And I'm like, no, I'm so afraid. I'm scared. Something bad's going to happen. Something bad's going to happen. Because that's what my life was. It was like, oh, there was
Yeah.
a period of time where it was calm. And then, oh my God, something horrible would happen, or something
Yeah.
sad or scary so I'm like, it's like reminding myself that I'm moving out of it because I'm still hung
Yes.
up on, I love how you said, like, because I understood that if I'm focusing on it, that I'm creating it, but now I actually understand it in a little bit further level. So, oh
Yeah.
man.
I call it kind of like the sports injury, Oh, I've done something to myself. I've got this thing, we'll say a bump on my elbow. Oh, this bump on my elbow. God, it just feels so bad. Oh man. Oh, this bump on my elbow. Wow, it's getting bigger now. Things you're
Mm,
adding to that vibration. And so, it works that way for all of them. Any emotional content that we have it's energy. So if you look at it like, my focus and my anything that I'm doing, I'm putting energy into the thing. I'm doing it. And so, for instance, if you want to get well and you want to heal, well, guess what? The way to heal is, wow, I keep getting better every day. I'm feeling good about it. Look how good I'm doing at my age. This is just awesome. But if you start focusing on, uh-oh, I'm too stressed, I'm getting sick. And I just did this just last month. But I was in a
okay.
situation where I was learning and growing a lot. So and as I started getting sick, I didn't want to get sick because I was overseas, and overseas I don't have my medical stuff that I have when I'm here. So I was
Okay.
like, uh-oh. And it did. It got worse. And now it's getting better because I'm thinking, well, you know what? I'm doing so much better now, and these thoughts, they're just so creative. But when we get into a really, really hard learning curve, let's call it that, because I was doing something that I'm not used to, and it was very difficult, you know. Uh, and as you're in those new situations, you're dealing with all those fears around those new things too, and you can find
Mm,
where you have more of it at, because this
yeah.
this it's not like it's an endless sea of fear that you never get through. It's not like that. It's like, and this goes back to the question you asked earlier about peeling the onion. You get a few layers into the onion, like, I'd worked on myself, worked on my relationships in my family, the ones closest to me, worked on those. Then I started working on the ones farther away from me, and different kinds of relationships, and that's where it got dicey. Yeah, that's where it got really interesting, because I hadn't done any work there. It was mostly with just my close relationships. But see, I had kind of figured that out, that part of the onion, my close relationships. So then it went in to the next layer. Okay, what about
Mm,
these other relationships? Let's do those. And then it
awesome.
got really scary again. So what happens is you'll complete a piece, and it's like you don't end up getting more than what you can do. You're right where you need to be. It doesn't give you too much. And when I was in the thick of it, I just kept telling myself, I'm here for a reason. I need to grow in this area. And this is where
Yeah.
rubber meets the road, is in your closest relationships around, that you choose to have. And, I learned so much, and I grew so much from it. And I'm glad that those relationships are there. Were they hard? Yes. Um, did they do what they needed to do? Yes. And so you just it's hard to say. Was that bad? Maybe not. Maybe it was good, because now I have new eyes to see the
Yeah.
relationships with. I have new, bigger, wider insight into myself and
Yeah.
understanding of myself, so that I can have more grace for myself and let myself off the hook a little bit, because really we're doing the best we can do with what we have. You got to start somewhere. And from the looks of it, the both of us, we're out here, we're dripping sweat and fear, and we're throwing courage factors on, and we're really trying to do this work. And it's not like we can go down to the library and get a book that's going to just, okay, this is what you need to do next. It's not like that. And so we're just,
Yep.
see, I'm stumbling around in here too. And so that's kind of how this work has progressed in my life, is that it'll start at one place, and then I worked on fear of big dogs, and then it went to relationships with my family, and then it started circling out and getting and changing. And as I'm growing, then the challenger level of it kind of ups a little bit,
Yeah.
Yeah. But it doesn't do that until you're ready. I had a long vacation after the first big piece. I had a long little chill period there. And
Okay.
and I was like, okay, I know there's more. I know that that's not all the fear that I had. I knew it. I knew it. But take your breaks when they come. I think that I'm in a little bit of a break, and now you're in the hard piece. So as one's stepping out of the junk, the other one's kind of stabilizing the structure. It's like, hang on, hang
Yeah.
on,
Yeah.
climbing
That's
out of the
awesome.
hole.
Yeah.
Pamela, you can do it.
Exactly. I really do think we need cheerleaders. We need to be that for each other.
We
Um,
do. Wouldn't that be fun to get those shakers and just go?
and you know what? We'll be called the consciousness crew.
the consciousness cheer crew. Yeah, I ran across a story. I've heard of Tibet, but I didn't know that much about it. So I watched the documentary. Oh my goodness, boy, anybody, you should go look at that story. You think that this is so hard what we're doing. Oh my goodness, poor people. They went through a ton. They were a separate country. Next thing they know, China decided, nope, you're part of this country now. But they had been doing the same thing for thousands of years. They don't know how to do it any different. So they took all of their holy men away. They took all of their social structure away. And these people just
Wow.
imploded. They didn't know what to do. And it got so bad that, you know what? The Chinese had to give them back their temples because they couldn't function without them. That was part of their psyche. That was part of their structure. And they just couldn't do what the
Wow.
Chinese wanted them to. I'm sorry, we're not Chinese. We can't do it. But, and then there was this one piece where this Dalai Lama guy was talking about it. And he said, oh, we suffer. Oh, we suffer so much. And he said, yes, we did suffer. He said, and then he just went straight to the silver liner. He said,
Oh,
but had that not
beautiful.
happened, this information would not be getting out to the rest of the world. It would have just stayed right here, because the Tibetan culture before the Chinese came in, it was a culture based on love and compassion and care for each other, the kind of society that we all want to live in. Right
Yep.
now, we live in a culture of fear, control, power. That's what we have, and it's miserable, and we don't like it, and
Yeah.
it's not fun. Well,
Mm-mm.
and here are these cute little Tibetan people. Their faces freeze into these smiles. They love everybody.
Yeah.
They love
Yeah.
each other. Go look at their faces. Just pull up their
That's beautiful.
Yeah. And he said, we need this information everywhere, not just here on the top of the world. He said, this needs to go out to the whole realm where everybody can understand this. And what they're doing is they're compiling all the information of how to become a society, a civilization based on love and
Mm.
caring about others and compassion instead of what we have. So now, see, I said there's no instruction book. Well, they're writing it right now, but it was them that had to happen, or we would never have had an instruction book. And I was just really, what was really interesting for me as I watched that was the philosophy and what they were talking about, and the monks were talking about. They were coming out and telling the people exactly what they were doing and what was going on. And the biggest piece they came out with was all the same stuff that Tom Campbell says in the My Big Toe book. It's all the same information. It just uses different metaphors. And they even say, hey, this thing that we're in, it's an illusion anyway, it's just an illusion. And that's the same thing that Tom was saying, it's just a virtual reality where you come in as consciousness, you're here and you go through these things. And so it was just so interesting. And that's what Tom Campbell was saying too, is that the information has only bubbled up in a few places a couple of times, the right information. It's only bubbled up a couple of times in a few places, but then it just goes back down as the civilization changes. And so now what we have is it's going to be able to get everywhere because, all of these videos that they're making about this little country that could, all that information is going out to the masses. I got to it. And there it was. And I was just like, oh, look at them. Their civilization is just like what we want in ours. And so what are they doing? What are they doing right? And what they do is there's a teaching in their religion where they learn to meditate. And it's not about meditating. It's just learning how to focus and focusing your mind and learning to rein in those emotions, because those emotions are so creative and they know it. And it's not about, and see, that's what they were talking about. It's not about stopping them. We have these human emotions of envy and fear, and we have all these. But the trick is to learn how to manage them so that when you get into those different situations that we don't, we don't feed it and don't give it any strength.
Yes.
and
that's tricky.
Yeah. And we know we've had it hard. We've all had it hard because we came up in this culture based on fear, and it's not. And so we've all had it hard, and I want to go into that bucket too. I just had it so hard. And I'm a victim here. And I didn't like it. I hated it, and I didn't want it. But the thing about it is, the more that I went that way with it, I couldn't have any compassion for anybody else because I was so focused on me.
Yeah.
Get outside of that to go, well, wait a minute, Cheryl, maybe it wasn't as bad as you thought. Because, all you know is your own experience, right?
Oh, man. I mean, when you really do start paying attention to your thoughts, your words, your actions, and really pay attention, and call yourself out on all of it, and not necessarily in a negative way, if you can not do that, and recognizing the patterns and stuff of what's running the show at the moment, it's quite awakening, because you don't really think that you're that, that you have that you, that's where you're living. That's how you're living your life. You don't. And then I'm thinking about stuff and I'm like, because the core belief, one of my core things is that I always want to be, I love being helpful. I love being the kind person, but yet I am so self-centered in the way that all I think about is I'm like, oh my God, all of these fears are just running the show. And I'm like, how can you be helpful? How can you be helpful if you're living like this?
And again, this horse, who's got the reins?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So to recognize that stuff,
that we're self-centered. See, that's why all of it's okay, because of where we came from in our culture. That's the culture we came from, and that's it. And it's okay that we have it. And here's one thing, and let's cover this before we go today. I really wanted to, I'm so glad we came up on this about, your ego is not your amigo, because see, that's what we get going when we have, and let's give the definition of ego is the ego is really awareness, fear. That's all it's about. It's just there trying to protect you from things that you think.
Yes.
That's all it does. And if you don't feel, if you don't feel good about yourself, if you're always beating yourself up, well, there's your ego going, but no, wait, look at this fancy car I got. look at Oh, look how good I look. Yeah. See, it's always trying to pump you up, and it's always doing these things that really just makes you focus on yourself. And you can't have
Yeah.
any compassion for anybody else because you're focused on you. And so what I learned is that when I would catch myself doing this, and here's a good tool that I use. Anybody can use it if they want to. It's free. This was a tool that I used to help get my ego under control. I had huge ego. I was Nurse Ratchet. I thought I was I was Nurse Betty. I knew everything. Oh, it was awful. And so I had to get that one under control. She really messed a lot of things up in my life, that Nurse Ratchet lady. Anyway, when she would show up, I was like, oh, that's the ego piece. And so what I started doing is every interaction that I would have, and this would be a good thing you could do because you're involved with other people now. Every interaction, because I had to get this ego, because she was not my amigo. You would not believe how many times that Nurse Ratchet embarrassed me. Really embarrassed me. It was like, oh no, well, see, that's about me too. It's all about me, glorious me. So what I started doing is, okay, Cheryl, when you go out today, every interaction you have, think about them. Focus on them. Ask them, how was your day? Don't start telling them some of your stories. You got a million of them. How was your day? How are you doing? How do you feel? It's not about fixing them or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the simple act of focusing on others. That is one of the fastest ways I got that ego to sit down and go sit in the stadium where it needs to be. You can watch the show, but you can't be in control of the show.
Yeah.
My deep inner self needs to be in control of this because you are embarrassing.
Yep.
So
no, and that's
sit
amazing.
down. It's okay. Everything's fine. Look at this nice person in front of me. Wonder what they're like. Oh, and people tell you the craziest things when you do this. It's so entertaining. They'll tell you everything you need to know. And you just listen. And then that it also helps teach you how to listen. And then see, right behind this comes in compassion. And you're not trying to fix it. It's just compassion. And people can feel that when you are not all about you and you're being a compassionate person towards them. That is one of the biggest ways that they can heal and get out unstuck from this terrible places that we find ourselves in. And you are doing a service to humanity, every person you talk to. And now, instead of just putting all the same old of you out into the world, now you're putting something good out into the world. Now you've got something to feel good about yourself because you're trying and you're doing your best to put something good in this world instead of all this nastiness that we have and that we're dealing with right now, you know? So yeah, your ego's not your amigo.
Yeah, no, and I love the whole thing because I did get to the conclusion of I'm like, oh, the ego, because it got such a bad rap and I'm like, oh no, it really is just trying to protect me.
Yeah.
Right? It's just trying to keep me safe. But I love that, because it's like I think you don't realize how much it is about you until you like going, oh, we actually are listening to others and how their day is. But when you catch yourself, like when they're speaking and you're not even listening and you're like, oh, or waiting for you to share your next thought.
Waiting for you to put you in there.
Yeah, exactly.
I went out and I saw my uncle and he has this horse. Well, you're thinking about when you had a horse. Oh, I used to have this horse. And I used to go. There it is again.
Yes. Yes.
And every time I would catch myself telling a story about myself, unless it was somebody that really wanted to hear the story, I was like, wait a minute, that's about me again. Oh, shoot. And I wasn't successful all the time. I had to work with it. And so I was like, okay, well, that was all about you again, Cheryl. There it is. And then,
oh my God.
The next person I come up on, it's like, how are you doing today? And I'm thinking, don't do it. Don't do it. Oh, what are they saying? And they'll tell you, and what got funner for me than telling my same old stories all the time. What got funner was listening to the crazy stories that you hear from other people. You just wouldn't believe it. And some of them are just hilarious, and they'll laugh with you. They like it too because it's fun, right? Because a lot of times they got a way better story than you got, because your story, you already know it. You've already done it, right? So they've got a whole different twist, and they'll tell you about a story, and some of them are just hilarious. I started writing them down because they're just so funny.
Oh, that's cool.
It's like, oh, I'm taking that story. I'm going to use that.
Yeah. No, that's very cool.
And you can just, just start, how's your day? And then that just rolls right into it. And every time they say something, then make it about them again. And then make it about them again. And then you look up one day and you're really connecting to other people, and you're really doing it. And it's not about you. And it's not, you're out of that ego mode, and you're actually able to really, really communicate with someone else. And you've learned to listen better too,
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Whoa.
Yeah, that's why there's 2 ears and only 1 mouth.
Whoa. Yeah. Did you ever get caught like in a place where they're like, oh, like someone asked me like my political, like which way I lean, and I'm like, well, I don't think that's a good idea to because it's whichever way. I'm like, for me, it's not, it's about the person. It's not about, and I'm like, because I was working and I was like, and I just said, I said, I just want to be in a place where everybody's opinion has value, and that I'm open to hearing it rather than being right, but I just was afraid of saying the wrong thing, as far as like how I handled it. Because you also don't want to offend them or think.
Well, the thing is, they're already offended.
Oh my God. Thank you. That's so true.
And I've been working around this one too. Well, because the culture is telling them to be offended, because there's a lot of offensive things about our culture. There really is, but it's not out there. It's in. It's in us.
Right.
So what I started doing is, when the conversations, because you're at work, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So we're supposed to be working at work. See, there's one way out right there. And so I started trying to maneuver around to where I didn't even have to get into those conversations, because there's no winning in them, because it's really all about negative things, really, if you think about it. And it's all about, social media. And if you're not in this group, then you're out and you're excommunicated from the culture. You're over there, and now we're divided, and I'm going to stand here and think negative things about you as you think negative things about me. Well, here we are in a society of fear, power, and control. That's what it is. And so, and so I, if I can't think of something funny, which I usually can if I work at it for a minute, I've told people, I don't know. I'm not smart enough for that. I'm purple. I just took the 2 colors and I blended them together and made it purple. Now I'm a purple.
So you just get creative, right?
Yeah. I'm a purple people eater.
Yeah.
It's like, well, and then there's another one you can say. It's like, well, one that I said a couple of times, but see, each one works in different situations. Then one I said was, okay, well, it's red and blue. Well, what if there's an edge? Okay, what if there's 2 sides? Okay, 2 sides of the coin, but then there's the edge of the coin, right? You've got the edge. So we can be on the edge. We can be on the edge, and we can see the good things about both sides. See?
Right.
Try to bring it together in some way. And, and some people are just mad, and there's nothing you can do.
That is very true.
They're just mad. And so if they're mad, I wouldn't tell a joke.
That's I hope I have enough common sense to read the room in that, I could tell if they're a little angry or not, but
oh, you can. And I'll just take my hand. Oh, it's just hard times right now. Everybody's doing the best they can, they're trying, everybody's trying, because really they are.
Yeah.
Everybody is trying because we have to now, because things have deteriorated down to, this thing of fear, power, and control. So everybody does have to try now. So sometimes I look at this realm and go, well, maybe it needed to go here, so that we could get out of here, because here is where we are.
Well,
Where we are.
yeah, exactly. And the one thing that it finally hit home, I've been hearing it for a very long time, but it finally hit home that all of my, like, I was like, oh my God, like literally every choice I made has led me to here. Every choice. And because I've understood like the accountability and I'm responsible for all of my thoughts and everything else, I understood it again at the intellectual level. But when you finally get that understanding at a deeper level, I was like, oh my God, I really can't. Like I am literally responsible. Every little choice that I've made, it has an impact
Yeah.
on which, you know,
Our
and I mean,
choices
I'm not saying
they matter.
what, no, yeah, seriously. And I think that's a super important thing. And I don't want to like, oh, it's daunting because I have a tendency to do that. Oh, I'm doing it wrong. I'm doing it wrong. I'm doing it wrong kind of
Oh,
thing.
look at that. Just lighten up, laugh at it a little bit. Because
Oh, I do need to
I know
do
it's
that.
hard, and it's kind of struggling to try to do that. But if we can let the humor come in, because if you really look around you, it's there. It's all around you. Um, and if you are open to that, what happens here? Let me fix this right quick. It doesn't want to focus right. There we go. Oh, it's just really blurry. It's okay. It's that piece, of we want to be accountable for our choices, but we need to make the choices. We don't want to be afraid of making choices either. We've got to make those choices, even if they're wrong. What we need to do is we need to make mistakes good again, because that's the only way we can learn.
Yeah.
And see, here we are in this culture again, where we grew up in a culture where if you made a mistake, it was punishment. And a lot of times it was corporal punishment. You got attacked over choices. So it was, some people just completely shut down, won't make any. It's like, hell no.
Yeah.
Not doing that. Something bad will happen. And that's what they learned. Not making that choice. No, I'm just going to pretend it never happened, Well, even when you don't make a choice, you're still making a choice.
Right.
And then you're not attending to something that you need to. So
And that
just get out there and make those choices anyway. And then
ask why. Like,
what?
I love that too, is Tom's like, it's not so much what you do, it's why you're doing it.
Yes.
Right. It's like,
yep.
What is that? Why? Yeah. Why am I making that choice? Why do I feel that way? And follow that thread to that understanding of yourself. And it does take deep diving, and brutal honesty. Yes. And I think the level of honesty gets deeper and deeper as your work becomes more honest,
Yes. As you're as you're willing to go. And we do have, fears around making these choices. We have fears around who we really are on the inside. There is a lot of fear around these, but once we start moving through some of these fears, then you can start making better choices. We can stop being afraid of getting punished for it. We can lighten up on ourselves. Well, we didn't get the tools that we needed to be some kind of Dalai Lama yoga. So it's all okay. And we can lighten up, and we can, choose to look at the silver liner miner, be a silver liner miner about it, and look at it and go, well, maybe I needed that to happen so that I could learn something. And then once you start really getting into the swing of things, it just gets easier and easier as you go. And Pamela, I just want to thank you so much for coming on here and doing this. You have just been phenomenal. I think that if we stop here, then give time to digest what the work that you just did and that I just did. I don't know what I did, but I did something, I think. you just, give it time to settle and say thank you to everybody that's going to come in the chat with us and glad
Oh,
that everybody's
absolutely.
here. Yeah. Thank you for going on
So
this journey
thankful.
with us. It's a crazy journey. But the thing about it is, I think that's what Pamela and I have figured out. It's like we need a cheer team. We need a support group when we're actively doing this inner work, because it is a booger. It's a boogaboo. And sometimes we don't know if we're thinking around things the right way, because
Yep.
we're clouded because of the culture that we came from, based on fear, control, and power. And with each of us doing this work individually, what happens is eventually more and more people learn about it, because it's coming out. And that Dalai Lama guy, he's making sure of that it's all coming. And so is Tom Campbell.
Yep.
The information is coming out because people are ready for it. They're ready to get rid of this, because this isn't fun, the realm we're in. And it's going to be a wonderful thing as we move into a society based on love, caring, and compassion. What a wonderful world we're all going to create together. And so I invite everybody to join up. There's cheerleaders here.
Exactly.
As your face plant, everybody's here for you, even if it's bad. It's like, oh, that's bad.
Well, and
get up and try again.
exactly. And,
Yeah.
asking the questions like, hey, I'm going through this, I'm going through
Yes.
that, like, or offering insight and what somebody else experienced and what worked for them. And because it can be a lonely ride if we don't have each other. And I
Yes.
mean, and we are here and like, we're literally here for each other. So I want to start living that. I want to offer that. And I love that concept. I absolutely connect with it. So,
Well, okay, Pamela, it's official. You're my official co-host on Front Row Seat Show, and
woo!
and
Hello.
you can come help me dice it out here. And you know what? I think that it's really beautiful, because I really don't mind talking about my disasters and my monsters, and I've got them.
Oh,
Because
man.
it's the only
I
way.
gotcha.
It's the only way, because we've got to
Yeah.
talk about them. You know what? There's disasters here, and there's monsters
Yeah.
to talk about, but it's us, so it's okay. We're learning
Yep.
about them so that we can, pat them on the head and make them at least be like the abominable snowman monster. He's friendly, but he looked mean.
Yeah. No, I that's beautiful. And oh, that's amazing. And that's what we need.
It is. So let's do it. And I guess we'll see you next week, and we'll do this again until we
Thank you.
get all of it out, until we know that we don't know what's going to happen in the future. We're just doing what we feel we need to do now. And my hat's off to you. I don't wear hats, but
Thank you. Thank you for being a bright light in all of this. It's like just peeking through that. My awareness is peeking through. Yours is open. Yours is opening up wider and wider. Mine's just starting to peek through, and I'm thankful. So I appreciate you and you sharing what you have experienced, and really truly, because your insight is, well, you're playful, you're funny, and and you genuinely care. So your authenticity is
there's
beautiful.
areas that I don't, but that I'm working on. And it's like I just got a peek hole, and I'm just peeking out, going, "Oh, I don't know about all that." and when I approach something like that, I'll just ask you about it, because you probably have better insight into it than I do. But when it comes up, we'll talk about it. I'll do it. I've been doing
That's
it
awesome.
for 6 years now. Oh my gosh, there was some times when I was on that podcast of where it would just be, I just would think I was right, and then I wasn't. It was just, oh no.
Okay.
So hey, it got me ready to do this kind of stuff. So here we are.
Yeah.
So we'll be back next week for all of you that are in the chat, and thank you for coming, and we appreciate all of you. And if you have any questions, just put them in the chat, and we'll see what we can do with it.
Thank you, guys. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.